welcome back to the Fandom Zone podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in the Fandom Zone once again, ready to talk some Stargirl from the DC Universe and also from the CW. And I'm here, of course, joined by my fellow Fandom Zoner and just all around neato burrito person, Jesse Jackson. How you doing, Jesse?
I am good, Charles. I'm excited about this one, though a little spoilers. I think we took a little step backwards to finish strong.
Okay.
I think I'm okay with that because we have had some really great episodes, and I feel like this was just kind of, as a show, they took a breath,
yeah,
and then they're going to finish strong.
Yeah, I kind of felt that same way. I kind of thought that this was kind of like the pause before the two-part series or season finale. Excuse me.
Yeah,
because now it's not a series finale anymore; it's now season 1 finale, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So here at episode 187, we are, of course, talking Shining Knight, the 11th episode of Stargirl, Season 1, that aired just about a week ago on July 27th, 2020, written by Geoff Johns, co-creator of a certain Courtney Whitmore,
yes,
and writer of the Stargirl episodes Pilot and Stripe, the first 2 episodes of the season, among other various DC Comics projects, of course. Directed by Jennifer Pong, who's new to the show, but she's directed some episodes of The Boys, Cloak and Dagger, The Expanse, and Riverdale.
Okay.
So I kind of thought that, obviously, in my opinion, I'm guessing she's pretty qualified to direct this episode.
Absolutely.
And, this is a notable one because, hey, we get the introduction and confirmation of Courtney Whitmore's real father, a rather unscrupulous character by the name of Sam Kurtis, played by an actor named Geoff Stults, who's been in the movies J. Edgar and Wedding Crashers, and also on the television series Zoo, and appeared on an episode of Bones.
And I don't know if you watched, but he was on, they had a short-lived series called Enlisted.
No, I didn't watch that one.
Which was a comedy set at an army base. And it actually was really good. And he played, what was kind of funny off key is he plays the older brother. There's 3 brothers all on the same army base.
Yeah.
And he's the more serious, dedicated, he's the good soldier. And the other 2 are the screw ups. So this was a little bit unusual for me because I really liked him in Enlisted. And I thought he played a really good bad dad, bad dad. You know what I'm saying?
So a little bit of a contrast for you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's fair.
Yeah.
So a little bit of trivia before we get started in our main topics.
Yes.
If you want a little background on the Sam Kurtis guy. So he first appeared in 2000's Stars and Stripe number 10, created by Geoff Johns and Scott Collins. And in the comics, he was basically this drifter, gambler, ne'er-do-well. And somehow he hooks up with Barbara Whitmore and gives, fathers Courtney. But eventually, Barbara has enough and leaves him. But not after he gives Courtney a locket with a picture of his face, and he takes an identical one with their faces on it. And he later becomes a petty criminal, kind of like he does here on the show. And so much so he accumulates this debt. And apparently one that could only be paid with the price of both lockets, which is kind of something that's hidden here in the TV episode. So he tracks down Courtney, cons her out of the locket, like he does here. But eventually, his crimes landed him in jail where he gets found by the Royal Flush Gang. And he's made a low-ranking member of the gang, the 2 of Clubs. And he ends up having a confrontation with Stargirl and Stripe later on, recognizes his daughter, but he still attacks her nonetheless. And he pled for her to let him go after she captures him, but of course she sends him back to jail. Because that's what good superheroes do. even if it's their
Absolutely.
natural father.
Absolutely.
So that's a little background. So the question is, of course, are we going to see Sam again, maybe in season 2, as the two of clubs with the Royal Flush Gang?
Yeah, if I had to guess, I would say no. I think this is one of those where,
You think it's a
um,
one and done?
yeah, I think it was. I think Geoff was like, okay, we have this built-in history from the comic. This will work well in the TV series. But now, if they ever do like in season 3, or if they do a Royal Flush Gang
Yeah.
episode, that might happen. But I just don't see that happening. I thought it was really nice and to. We've had a lot of questions about her father, and I'm glad that they answered these in a really good way this episode.
Yeah, and obviously this is an episode that's very hard for Courtney, which was obviously one of the things we're going to talk about right off the bat.
Yes.
But she comes through it at the end, and hopefully we'll give her a little bit more resolve as she heads into the big season 1 finale.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. All right, so 3 topics I thought we could talk about today. So topic number 1, like I said, let's talk right about Courtney right off the bat.
Okay.
Let's talk about Sam and Barbara and, of course, Pat. And we're going to talk a little bit more about Pat in our second topic. But I thought because there's he has 2 stories in this
Right.
episode. He's got the storyline with Courtney and Sam and Barbara, and then he's got another one with Justin the Shining Knight. So we'll talk about that in our second topic. But for right now, let's talk about Courtney and Sam. And what was your reaction to Courtney learning the truth, as hard as it is, about her natural father?
Well, Brec, not
Yes.
Bree, Brec.
There you go. All right, you got it.
Did a really good job this episode of showing her heartbreak and her disillusionment. She had built up this in her mind that she was the daughter of Starman, and that she had this legacy, and the reason her father abandoned her is because he had died. And instead it comes crashing. The reality is, no, she's not the daughter of Starman. Her father is a bum and truly did abandon her. And then even when she tries to get just the glimmer of hope that maybe he really wants a relationship now that she's older, she quickly sees through them. He's just wanting the locket because it's valuable and he can use it to we don't know he's going to pay debts if you watch the TV show, but you knew he's using it for something. He just wants the money.
He wants
for
the money.
Something.
Yeah.
Now, I was proved wrong, but I had a theory that, and if you could let me go wild for a minute, Charles.
Go for it. Go crazy. Go nuts.
Yeah. When the staff wouldn't respond to her, it was when she didn't have the locket anymore. And I was wondering, was there something significant on that locket that helped the staff recognize something about her? That there was some kind of mystic connection, that the locket was somehow, and because it looks like it's engraved with some kind of, ordinate, and so I was thinking like maybe this was some kind of locket that came from space, or there was a connection,
right,
that's how it noticed. And no, it was just she didn't believe in herself, which is a better story.
Yeah.
But just for a minute I was like, oh, see what's changed? She isn't wearing the locket.
Oh, that's what you focused in on. That's what you zeroed in on.
Yes. And so when I watched it the second time, I specifically I paid really close attention to him telling the story, how he got the locket. And, because the first time I heard it, he used the word star when he describes it. But the second time, it's a famous craftsman that created this. So I was hoping for some kind of,
payoff,
kind of mystic payoff, but no, it was just he broke her heart by stealing a locket.
Yeah.
So
on that related note,
yes.
So Courtney had built it up in her head that her father was Starman, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
And understandably, because, hey, here's this cosmic staff that Starman used. Nobody else seems to be able to use it, but you can. So it's a natural assumption for her to go like, well, that must be because I'm Starman's daughter, right?
Absolutely.
And
yes.
especially when Barbara, for whatever reason, decided not to tell Courtney much about her natural father.
Yeah.
And so she makes this assumption, but ultimately it's revealed that, hey, the reason the staff chose her is presumably because the staff finds her worthy.
So I'm glad you brought that up, Charles, because I was a little
kind of like in a Green Lantern kind of thing.
Yeah, I was a little confused on why the staff recognized her at first and then didn't and then did.
Yeah.
Because and I guess if we overcomplicate these things, right, that the staff originally felt her potential to be a hero. And then when she was down on herself and didn't believe in herself, the staff was like, okay, maybe she doesn't have that potential anymore.
Yeah.
And then when we have that great scene where her stepfather Pat, her mother are believing in her and she believes in herself, the staff comes alive even brighter than ever.
Yes.
Like, oh, now that you have this support, I think your potential has gone even higher, which was a really beautiful little arc in this episode.
Yeah, now this is something that's different from the comics.
Okay.
So it did take a little, trying to piece it together, but it does seem that the ability for Courtney to use the staff is tied to her self-confidence, self-worth, sense of self-worth.
Yeah.
And her intentions.
Right.
So, for whatever reason. Now, we still don't know. I think hopefully maybe in season 2 we're going to get a little bit more deeper dive into what's going on with that staff. Because I do think there's a lot. Now, I wouldn't do it now because, hey, we got to build up to the finale. And we know that there's going to be a season 2. So, obviously, I think we'll just hold off on that for now. But it, I think it does bear investigating later on.
And I do think there's a little bit of a hand wave on, as our friend of the podcast and former co-host Karen Lindsay used to always say, that you've got to do a little bit of hand wave on, well, why did it light up for her to begin with? Right? Because she had she was not thinking about being a superhero or anything. She was just, it just started calling to her.
Yeah, and I think you're onto something that I think it sensed potential.
Yeah.
In her.
Right.
Kind of like, if you think about the origin of Green Lantern.
Right.
Which, hey, Geoff Johns is a writer, a famous writer for, because he wrote a very great run during the 2000s.
Yeah.
But he, the Green Lantern, that the ring, Abin Sur's ring, searched out for the right person to be Green Lantern. So maybe it was a case of Geoff kind of echoing that Green Lantern origin to go, well, hey, the staff was just waiting for the right person to come along.
And I think I have a couple of quotes when we get to that part of the show, and I think one of the quotes that Pat talks about reinforces our kind of combined theory.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. Do you feel that Barbara has come on board a little too quickly based on where she was last episode, or do you buy the journey? Now, I buy the journey because I'm like, okay, we've only got 13 episodes.
Yes.
I realize this is comic book time or TV time, but I think that they paid off enough that okay, I've accepted what things are, and Barbara is going, okay, I may not like this, but I'm on this ride and I got to go with it.
I would have revealed it to Barbara about 2 episodes earlier.
Okay.
I think it does feel a little rushed right here toward the end. just for me, that because like she just found out and she's still coming to terms with, hey, my daughter's a superhero, and hey, and this is something she kind of brings up to Courtney in this episode. You might go off and die.
Yeah.
But maybe the rush, it kind of works in this sense because of Barbara realizing, once Sam shows up,
Mm-hmm.
that the staff, here's after Sam leaves, Courtney is feeling very low.
Yes.
And maybe Barbara feels that Courtney would be, her mood would be uplifted if the staff worked again. So she kind of maybe comes around a little bit in that regard, because Courtney asks her and Barbara and Pat to come down to the basement with her.
Yeah.
And instead of going look, I'm not going to do this. You don't need it to be anywhere near that staff. She instead says, okay, and goes down there. And it's that, it's that great moment where Barbara and Pat have their hand on Courtney's shoulders as she's reaching for the staff. So essentially there's this family unit again. The family unit has been restored after a couple of episodes of friction. And Courtney feels that sense of self-worth again. Or that sense of confidence in herself.
Yeah.
And what do you think? What do you think?
I think you're very right. Like I said,
so it kind of works. Bottom line,
yeah, it works for it. I do think that if you as a viewer felt a little bit stronger than what you did, like going, hey, I got a problem with this. I get it. I understand it. I think for what they're timing and what they're doing, I think this is good, mostly because I don't need the conflict. I need them back on the same page.
Yeah.
Now, I do feel bad for Mike. I continue to feel bad for Mike on the show.
Mike is still out of the loop, by the way.
Mike is out of the loop, and Mike is really hurting. And Mike is curious what's going on. He's smart enough to know something is happening, and he's feeling neglected and out there. And, and there was that great moment where after Sam breaks Courtney's heart, and Pat's there. Just, I'm here. If you need to yell at somebody, if you need to, I'm just here. That unqualifying love. Just
unspoken
I'm there.
love. Yeah.
Yeah, just there. And I just felt that I'm glad he could do that for Courtney, but I do feel he's not doing for Mike enough. And I'm like, if this was a darker show, Mike would later become a villain,
right?
Because of the way he was treated, right? Though, and I know
like he'll find out Courtney's secret and then rat on it to a supervillain or something later on. Yeah. Or he'll become a henchman for the like the Dragon King or something.
Yes, exactly, yeah. And then work his own way up to yeah.
But no, on that topic, because I'm glad you brought up the topic of when Courtney was hugging Pat, because I thought it was a very important moment. Because if you remember, when the show starts off in episode 1, their relationship was very contentious. Courtney hadn't accepted Pat as her father, her stepfather. Just like, okay, she kind of put up with him grudgingly because, she figured, well, he treats my mom okay. Yes. So I'll tolerate him. But obviously, the one of the main underlying themes throughout this season has been Courtney and Pat coming together as a stepfather, stepdaughter. And Courtney, because Pat, it hasn't really been so much Pat. Pat has wanted to reach out to Courtney.
Yes.
But Courtney has been resisting Pat. So now here in this scene, in this very important scene, after realizing, hey, my natural father is an a-hole.
Yes.
And I don't want him as my father. And so this is Courtney choosing Pat to be her father.
And I'm going to expand on that just a little bit, Charles.
Do do you think I'm right about that?
No,
Or?
I think you were spot on, but I think there's one other level. My actual father has disappointed me and let me down.
I understand, yes.
My imaginary father, which was supposed to be Starman, has been disillusioned. That's been thrown away. So I had a pretend father that I was trying to glorify, and that's been thrown away, stripped away. So all I have left is a guy who actually is there, who cares, who loves my mother, who wants to love and support me, and she accepts him with like this instead of the illusion of a perfect, Starman
The
father,
fantasy father.
The fantasy father, the reality of the heartbreaking. You have someone who is here, potential. I agree with you. Just a great moment.
It was an important moment for Courtney.
I think so. I think it was very important and important for him. I think that made Pat very, very happy.
Yeah, because obviously Pat's going to feel accepted by Courtney.
Yes.
And at first he's not sure what to do with this. It's like, well, okay, you're hugging me. Okay, I guess we're doing this now. Okay, we're hugging.
Yeah. And then I think he's he wants to do it, and that's when he goes and
you notice Barbara was watching that from atop the stairs.
Yeah, and then him to go talk to Sam, and that was a great thought too. Like, she adored that locket. She's always done it, and like never come back as if I was going to.
Yeah.
Right? And then you are so lucky I have other stuff going on. And then when Sam has to make a comment about, well, Barbara looks good, not as good when I had her, and just Pat just knocks him out.
So you were very happy with Pat.
I was very happy with that. Yes, I was.
It is a very satisfying moment because, hey, the guy is obviously scum, and
yes.
The way he after conning Courtney out of that locket, that meant so much to her. Then he could Sam couldn't just let it go. Like, don't come around here no more, and leave Courtney alone. He had to keep pushing, and then he got what he deserved, obviously. So it was a very satisfying moment.
It was a very satisfying moment.
Yeah, especially just like, oh yeah, hey, Pat punches out villains. So you might have bitten off a little bit more than you can chew there, Sam.
Yeah. And we've kind of already talked about it, but I do agree it's a very powerful scene, and did it not imply to you that the staff was even brighter than normal?
Yeah.
Like, isn't that what they were trying to show?
No, I think so. I mean, because it was blinding both of them.
Yeah, they were
Pat and Barbara.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I do think that maybe her sense of resolve is stronger than ever now, and as a result, now she's going to be more determined to go after the ISA and stop them.
So I have a question for you for our next topic. So I'm going to steal your line.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we need to talk about?
No, that's fine. That's fine.
With Sam and Pat, Barbara, and Courtney.
I don't think so. I think we can move on. All right. So let's move on to topic number 2. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Pat in a different way here. Yeah. So let's talk about Janitor Justin, the Shining Knight, Pat, and the JSA.
So I'm going to trust the show.
Yeah.
I'm going to trust the writers. But at this point, Justin feels like an unneeded piece of the story.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's going to provide. I mean, now at the end, when he says our queen is risen, right? Was that the line? Something like that?
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe there's going to be a payoff. But I was hoping that it would have been Mike on the stairs that would have saw them as a family, and we could have, okay, let's get everyone together.
Yeah.
I was disappointed in the Justin story. I don't really kind of understand at the beginning when he's wandering and sees the American flag and makes him think of Stripe C. I get what happened. I
Yeah.
just don't particularly care, and I don't know of a payoff yet that's going to happen. Tell me what you're thinking,
Well,
Charles.
what I'm thinking is that I was a little let down by the execution of this episode as far as Justin's storyline as well. Um, Geoff Johns, who normally handles this stuff pretty well in the comics, you know, you go in there with an episode title Shining Knight, you figure, okay, we're going to see Justin finally becoming the Shining Knight, right? But we don't. You know, he's still now. I get they're trying to explain that okay, Justin is very addled and confused by when he talks about how something was done to him by the ASA. So like maybe the wizard put a spell on him or brainwave messed with his mind. We don't know yet.
Dragon King could
Dragon
do something,
King,
yeah,
exactly. So as a result, Justin has forgotten who he is, and he's only like he gets little fragments. And one of the fragments that he gets on is, "Hey, Stripesy, my my friend from the Seven Soldiers of Victory." So naturally, he's the go-to character for Justin to reach out to, and eventually Justin tracks him down. And there's a little bit of understandable confusion at first because, like I said, Justin's mind has been confused. And as a result, he's hallucinating Pat and the JSA as the Dragon King and some of his minions. So there's like a little bit of a scuffle, and the JSA is like, okay, who the hell is this guy? And what why is he trying to attack us? Because they don't know him. They don't know what he's about. But Pat, to his credit, is like, this is my friend. He's
yeah.
one of the most honorable men I know, and we need to help him. And it's another great example of why Pat is a great person because
Absolutely.
he's reaching out to his friend. He's loyal. It's like he's not just writing him off as like, oh hey, there's this crazy janitor guy,
Right.
or we need he's insistent we need to help him. But
yeah.
as a result, and this is where my frustration lies in, is that nothing is really done about it in this episode.
Yeah, so I'm going to jump on and agree with you. And I realize we have a couple more episodes to go. They could stick the landing, and if they are, I'll raise my hand and I'll eat crow again. Okay, I'm not. And this is a minor complaint, but it feels like, I may only get one season of Stargirl. I got to throw Shining at Night in there somehow.
Yeah.
Versus, like, it almost feels like this could have been a major subplot for season 2, right? Like them getting there, finding Justin, helping him restore himself. It just feels tacked on to this.
Well, this was something that it was going on about the same time in the comics that Geoff Johns wrote. So I'm guessing he figures, well, I need the Shining Knight around because that's what I did in the comics back in the 2000s. So 20 years earlier.
Yeah.
So he probably figures, well, I need to have him here. But like I said, it's just very disappointing when you have that title. You figure at the very least we should have seen him as the Shining Knight by the end of the episode, building into the finale. But they wanted to end it with Courtney instead, so Justin is left hanging.
And this could have been a better. I mean, if we're going to go with the absolutely spot-on titles the way that this show seems to do, then name it Sam Kurtis, right? The episode.
It should be called Sam or something. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But because that's primarily where the focus is. So it seems like it's almost like false advertising, I guess.
And you almost could have because you had the great scenes of the kids at the lunchroom where Courtney's like, hey, I'm giving up my mantle, and they're all like, but wait a minute, we're not the descendants. Two of them are going, we're not descendants of them. What's stopping you? So, which is
a very obvious argument to make because, like, you don't need to be Starman's father to be Stargirl,
right? And while this one, it just, I did not. I mean, I guess it was kind of cool just seeing them as henchmen and the problem, but
The hallucination, yeah.
yeah, I think the time could have been spent another way, or maybe that happening in a different episode
Yeah.
with a better
Now we
payoff.
get a little bit of explanation for Justin for those not familiar with the character. He talks about getting his sword from King Arthur, and then we find out it is indeed Excalibur.
Right.
And so that at least is okay. It's some great backstory, but
Yeah.
it it just felt like there wasn't enough of a payoff when there should have been a payoff here.
Yes, I agree.
But I'm thinking they're probably I'm guessing Geoff Johns and company are thinking, well, we'll have Justin kind of fumble his way around the big battle, and then something's going to happen just in the nick of time where he regains his memories and becomes the Shining Knight of old.
Okay.
So I'm waiting. I'm guessing there will be a payoff later in the finale and probably in episode 13. But I kind of thought there should have been a little bit earlier. That's my take. All right. Anything else about Justin? Or
No.
All right. Moving on. Topic number 3. Let's talk about Icicle and Brainwave. So, Brainwave, hot off of killing his son, and in addition to like killing his wife back in the day, goes to see his pal Jordan at the American Dream. And they have a little talk about Jordan expressing his sorrow for Henry Jr. dying, but Henry Sr. doesn't seem to care much. He's like, yeah, that kind of happened. And Brainwave tells Icicle that, oh, hey, I found out that Stargirl's Courtney Whitmore, and Pat Dugan is Starman's old sidekick, Stripesy, and Jordan, the Icicle, is a little taken aback by this because we know that he had kind of had his eye on Barbara. So it's like, well, hey, the woman I'm interested in, her daughter is now Stargirl, and her husband is Stripesy. So obviously that's going to complicate things. So
now, does he know he's Stripesy?
Yeah.
I don't. Oh, he does.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, he does know. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Brainwave is kind of like trying to feel out Icicle because Icicle's hesitating at this point.
Yeah.
And he's like, what's the deal, man? These are our enemies. We should be going out and killing them. What's your problem? And Icicle's trying to act like, well, there's no problem. Brainwave is just like, well, okay, well, we're going to do this, and if you don't go along with it, I'll change your mind.
Yeah.
So what did you make of all that?
So I really like the dynamic of these two villains. We know Jordan is, Icicle is ruthless. He is cold, pardon the pun. But I thought he did have, I think, some affection for Barbara and then Courtney because his son likes her. And so I think there was a little bit of reluctance at first. And then Henry, Brainwave, is just back to the cold guy we saw at the very beginning of the season.
Exactly.
Where he has no emotions whatsoever. He is just this logic, thing about let's get rid of people I need to do. He brags about by killing his son, he's gotten more powerful, almost as if he had absorbed his additional powers into him.
Right. And now he feels like, well, hey, we don't have to do just 6 states. We could probably do like half the country now.
Yeah. And then I think I thought it was an interesting scene of Jordan getting into Barbara's computer and seeing her search history and seeing that, okay, maybe she is looking into them and it's something to be worried about. And you have that cold at the end where, yes, you can go and, oh, by the way, don't forget to kill the boy. We don't need a legacy, which I thought was, while very, cold and menacing, I think it's actually very practical, considering a lot of this show is about generations and legacy. Him smart enough to know we need to take care of any loose ends.
Yeah, I had a little bit of another thought on that.
Please share.
What was going on, the reason he brought up Mike, I think, was to reassure Brainwave that he was still on board.
Yes,
because
I think so.
To give him a little more confidence, like, oh yeah, don't forget don't forget her brother. So, because I think, and this is something that we had talked about a little bit earlier when we were starting our Stargirl reviews, was that all these villains, especially there seems to be 3 power players here. We have Icicle, Brainwave, and the Dragon King. And they don't all seem to be on the same page. And I think this was another instance where Brainwave, now that he feels like amped up after killing Henry Jr., is starting to assert himself again. And Jordan, meanwhile, has his own agenda, and that agenda includes Barbara. So now we're seeing, like we talked about, that there might be some friction going on between the members of the ISA, and Jordan is now like playing defense here. He's having to try to reassure Brainwave that, yes, I'm on board this plan. We're still going forward with it. You don't need to be mucking around in my head. And he's very adamant about that. So the question is, at what point does, I think, Brainwave decide, well, hey, I'm in charge, and whammies, Icicle. What do you think?
I think that is a great point. They are the Injustice Society are definitely not team players.
Yes.
They are all, there's a lot of internal strife and bickering and bantering, and Jordan kind of rules through a, cold fist.
Yes.
But we knew, like, I even got that feeling from the very beginning that Brainwave may be like, maybe I should be running this thing. I'm smarter than everyone else.
Right.
And so I do think that's a really good insight, Charles, that he not only practically saying this is something us to do, but also as a symbol that, hey, don't forget, I can be as ruthless as you can be. Don't jack with me.
Yes.
And but I think Brainwave is like, I'm not the wizard.
Yes.
I'm somebody you can't jack with. I am not some minor league villain that you can control. And don't even think about trying to prove a point by killing my child. I've already killed my own. There's nothing I can't do. So I don't know if we will get a meeting between these two, but you can almost see the show setting up that there will be some kind of, altercation between them two.
Yeah, I think the question seems to be now, who's going to betray whom first?
Yes, I agree.
And meanwhile, while these two are focused on each other, the Dragon King's off doing his own thing.
Yes.
So maybe that's intention. Maybe that works to the Dragon King's advantage here. That, hey, these two idiots are going to be so power grabby, they'll be focused on each other, and I can just go ahead and do my own activities, my own agenda, without them paying attention to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's something to watch. I think it's something that,
I think so too. I think so.
Because there seems to be seeds being planted here. And somebody's going to backstab somebody at some point. The question is, who does it first? And then I guess we'll see what happens. All right. Anything else about these characters or the episode that we didn't cover?
Just the only thing is, and this is a very small point, but once again, when you go by, they seem to have fun with the movie theater.
Yes.
And there is a haunted tank, and I used to love when I would read the 80-page giant, our army, our soldiers at war.
Our army at war,
Sergeant, Sergeant Rock and the haunted tank and all these stuff.
Unknown soldier and all that.
Yes, they would do these. I don't know how well those stories would show up now in today's modern client.
Right.
That the tank being named after Jeb Stuart, a Confederate general. But seeing that brought me memories as a 10 or 12-year-old reading those comics, and I loved those stories. So that made me smile.
Yep. So all right, I don't have anything else. So with that in mind,
either.
So let's go into our favorite quotes.
All right, so I only once again, I love how they are not letting this joke go.
Yeah. Where
Rick goes, he's the Shining Knight, the leader of the 7 Soldiers of Victory, and Beth, there are 8 of you in the picture. And Beth's like, I know.
I know. He's like, I know that, Beth.
Okay, yeah. Like let this go.
Poor Wing.
Yeah, and then you mentioned. And it was a great where Henry, it says, make up your mind soon, old friend, or else I'll make it up for you.
Yeah.
And I do think that was a very blatant threat.
Yes.
That I can control. Like right now, we're allies, but if you get out of your way, I will use my mental powers to change you.
If you step out of line, you'll.
Yes, yeah. And then, go ahead. You got a couple?
No, yeah, I do. Unless you had some more.
Okay. Oh, I just have the end,
okay.
Which kind of, I think, re-emphasizes your theory. Is Courtney says it doesn't want me anymore. It knows I'm not Starman's daughter, and it doesn't want me. And Pat says, Court, that's just not true. Courtney, yes, it is. The staff chose me because it thought I was someone else. And Pat, the staff didn't choose you because of who your father is or isn't. Courtney, it knows all my mistakes. It knows my dad is a Starman. And then Pat, I don't know a lot about the staff. It's always known more than I did about almost everything, but it always knew your dad wasn't Starman, Court. It chose you because it believed in you. It's just waiting for you to believe in yourself again. That's all. Heroes can come from anywhere.
Yep.
And I think that was a great speech from Pat. And I also I think that proves your theory that the staff saw her potential, and then once she believes in herself, became even stronger.
Yeah, I think so. I just have a couple more to add to the ones that you had. Justin talking, he makes a comment that he says the wounds received in battle bestow honor. They do not take it away.
Nice.
I thought that was a good line.
I do too.
And earlier, you mentioned what Pat said to Courtney just now, but earlier Justin had kind of said something pretty similar, where he says he's talking to everyone, Pat and the JSA, and he says, "I was a lowly but yet loyal page, cleaning the horses' stables, yet King Arthur himself bestowed to me his sword upon his deathbed. He told me heroes can come from anywhere."
Nice.
And Beth says, "Wait, are you like from the past?" And Justin says, "From the time of knights and dragons."
Yes.
So essentially, Pat stole what Justin said earlier,
yes,
and recycled it for Courtney.
But rightly said.
About heroes coming from anywhere. So.
Yes, absolutely. Do you have a rating for the episode, Charles?
I do. My rating, like I said, this is the calm before the storm, but it was also a little bit of a letdown. So I'm going to give this one just 8 out of 10 Excalibur swords.
So we are in sync. I feel the exact same way. There was enough good stuff that I'm not going to give it a really bad rating, but it is a little bit of letdown, and I'm going to give it 8 out of 10, maybe not that significant lockets. I was really wanting the locket to
you
mean
really
something.
wanted that payoff, didn't you?
I did.
That's fine. That's all right. Sometimes you get, it's like Courtney. You get your expectations up, and then
Exactly.
and then when it turns out to be something completely different, you're a little let down. So
Yes, exactly.
all
yes.
right. So Phantom Zone news. I don't have much, but I do have something I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
If you notice, or if you remember, you and I had talked Watchmen.
Yes.
In the Phantom Zone not too long ago, right after as episodes were coming out back in around the end of 2019, and it turns out, well, hey, they just came out with the Emmy nominations, and Watchmen led the nominations with 26 nominations this year, so which was huge. I was very happy to see that. So yeah, I got 26 total for the 2020 Emmy Awards, including Outstanding Limited Series and acting nominations for Regina King, Jeremy Irons, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, Gene Smart, Louis Gossett Jr., and Jovan Adepo. Which, of course, you're talking Sister Night, Ozymandias, Dr. Manhattan, Silk Spectre, the original Hooded Justice, and the old Hooded Justice and the young Hooded Justice.
Yes.
So I thought that was pretty good, pretty amazing.
I was so thrilled to see that. It helps that it was on HBO.
Right.
Because HBO has a reputation of doing things well and having high, prestige drama.
Yeah.
But this is...
I think it also helped that it was in the limited series category.
I think so, too. I think so. And I think... this is a die-hard superhero story. This is not kind of fantasy or not like On the Shadows. This is, it may not have tights and capes, but this is a superhero story based on an acclaimed comic book, and including there is masked heroes and there is villains and there is everything about this was amazing. And you and I have talked about multiple times about how much we love this series and how we appreciate it. And I stand by my admiration for Damon Lindelof to go, look, until I get another story, I'm not just going to say yes on a second season, because I gave everything I had in this first season. And I do wish some other...
Well, he also said, hey, I'd love it. I'd love a second season even if I'm not the one doing it.
Yes, exactly. And I was just going to say,
yeah.
I hope some other creator that would go and
hey,
let's do this. Yeah. That would be interesting.
Lindelof was also recognized by the by the Emmys, so he got a nomination as well.
So I hope they win a lot.
Yeah.
I haven't compared, who they're running against, who they're competing against. And part of this is always you're competing against yourself. Like many of those actors are actually being like only one person from the show can win, even though there may be two or three in a category. But yeah, I think great news for good writing, and I'm just so excited to see.
Yeah, because you had several, I think several episodes nominated for writing awards and whatnot, or what have you. So, or just favorite episodes. So we'll see. Some of them are obviously it's not going to win 26.
Right.
But it's gratifying to know that at least Watchmen was recognized. A comic book, a series based on a comic book from the 80s was recognized. And because there's been a lot of shows that we felt that should have been recognized but that weren't.
Absolutely. And I know it will not happen. We probably will never get Christopher Eccleston wanting to be part of the Doctor Who universe, and Alan Moore is never going to acknowledge something that was that beautiful out of his creation. He's just too stubborn. But it would kind of be nice to see someone go, hey, they took my ideas and did something really beautiful with it, and being proud of it instead of the bitterness he has.
Yeah. Or just, he just feels he's so adamant, Moore is, a lot of people know this already, but that it was written to be a comic book.
Yes.
And that's all it should stay. So as a result, he's felt that there doesn't need to be a Watchmen movie. There doesn't need a Watchmen TV series.
Yeah.
And thankfully, Gaiman Lindelof came along and proved him wrong.
Yes.
Even Zack Snyder, when he made the 2009 Watchmen film, everybody said, well, Watchmen is unfilmable.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you can make it. Zack Snyder did it pretty much strictly by the series. He was very faithful to it. So I think it showed, and it actually, I think, in my opinion, improved upon the ending.
Yeah.
So I think Moore is, in my opinion, pretty wrong on this one. But I can't, it's his creation, his co-creation, and thankfully, so after, I respect that. But thankfully, Dave Gibbons, the artist, is perfectly willing to help contribute to the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Very good news.
Whether we get any more or not, we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's great.
But I did want to acknowledge that.
I'm glad you did. I think that is a big deal, and that's good for all of us.
Yep. So, Phantom Zone fan mail. Ken from Chicago is playing catch up.
Yay.
So he wrote a very, very long email.
You may just want to summarize it.
And then he put an addendum to it.
Okay.
So I'm not sure how much I can get through this because, we've already talked close to an hour already. We probably would be here another hour just reading the full email. Restraint, Ken. Restraint is the key. Yeah. All right. So we'll go through this as best we can. He says, "Hi, Charles and Jesse. Sorry about my lateness. I'll try to do better." He writes about Brainwave Jr., the episode before this one. He says he liked the non-apology, a.k.a. the real apology, saying Henry Jr. did not weasel out with a lame apology that minimized his involvement in the spread of Yolanda's pictures by blaming Cindy. He was still showing topless photos she intended for him only to several of his friends at school. Had he not done that, Cindy wouldn't have had the chance to get the picture herself. That's something I brought up. He says he got chills when Henry Jr. confronted him with new data, adjusting his position. When he found out his dad killed his mom, he stopped trying to save his dad and changed to saving his friends. He says Yolanda was fighting to save Henry Jr. from his father when she realized he was trapped with Brainwave Sr. after seeing him genuinely fight against the ISA and stand up to his dad. He likes Stargirl with her rando spear still kicking all kinds of butt righteously. Says mini JSA 2.0 versus mini ISA fight was fantastic teamwork, and the stunt work was totally nailed. To be fair, even as far back as the Stargirl versus Shiv in Shiv's bedroom, the fight looked great. My bad for not complimenting it. Then again, there was so much good. He says, "Oh, Rick, Grundy's prison is to protect you from him, not the other way around. You're fortunate the door didn't give way. Poor Beth, she's great at the spy work recon, but she does need some self-defense training, or at least maybe the goggles can flash people to make them temporarily blind, akin to her comic book powers."
Yeah.
He says the bad, sadly after several badless episodes, the bad returned in spades. The whole talk with Barbara was terrible, and I use talk loosely. When she's shutting down the talk, Patley remaining needlessly mute, speak the frail up, whether she wants a divorce after one fight, and yes, it's a really big lie, but even that is stretching it. But he's getting out of her house without even explaining what's going on, ? Of course, she was going back to work. You haven't explained jack squat to her. All that silence was just to stretch out the drama. Did not like it all. Poorly done.
Yeah.
So he's not happy with the fight, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
And let's see what else he says. Final rating, 8 out of 10, 1950s style diner Sundays. Sorry,
Nice.
Jesse, this was the worst episode this season.
Wow. Okay.
That's Brainwave Jr., the best episode this season. So,
Okay.
So he's completely 180ing us on this one.
Okay.
It says that whole opening talk with Barbara was some of the worst CW style writing I've ever seen. It was like watching some of the worst scenes of The Flash and Supergirl. The only thing keeping it from being 7 out of 10 is how phenomenal the ending was.
Okay.
Then in Stargirl Shining Knight, he says, it was good, 8 out of 10, Don Quixote, hallucinatory windmills. Stakes were lower, classic hero has a moment of doubt, feels unworthy of the call, and must be motivated to pick up the mantle and fight on.
All right. Very nice.
So, all right. So,
Thank you, Ken.
yeah, thank you, Ken. I mean, there's just so much here to talk about. He does have a PS that I thought was worth it because he says, PS, I think Charles could still be right. So he says, remember the cave, let's see, the hospital. Henry Jr. hid his mind from his dad. Maybe he did form a shield under the rubble and shielded his mind and implanted a thought in the weak-minded drone sent to clean up that the body they found was his versus another corpse that the Dragon King had in an underground storage.
I like that theory.
So Ken thinks that maybe I'm right, that Brainwave Jr. is still alive. We'll see.
All right. We'll see season 2. That would be a good explanation.
Exactly.
It's very good.
All right. So thank you very, very much for the rest, Ken. Just unfortunately for time that we're having to truncate that. So,
yes.
All right. So everybody, if you want to be like Ken, please do. Please write to us. We'd love to hear from you. So drop us a line at phantomzonecast@gmail.com. That's phantomzonecast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And otherwise, you can reach out to us on Twitter at PhantomZoneCast on the Twitter machine. Facebook, of course, the Phantom Zone Podcast, or Instagram at Phantom Zone Podcast. And Jesse, how about you? Where can they reach you on the interwebs?
Well, you can reach me at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter. From there, you can see me tweeting about the other podcast I do with Charles. We do Next Stop Everywhere, our Doctor Who podcast. And we are about to start a brand new round of episode discussions. So if you are wanted to get in Doctor Who in the past and we're like, hey, how do I jump in? Check on the podcast and we'll walk you through it. It'll be a good show.
Plenty of places to jump in on Doctor Who.
Yes, Set Listing Bruce is continuing, and in September we hit our 5-year anniversary, which is
congratulations.
Something, and so there'll be a lot of different special episodes coming up on that. Charles, how about you?
Well, of course, for me, you can reach me at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on Instagram, or Facebook, of course, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, and my blog, Geeky Things. Hold on.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on the Phantom Zone podcast. Your Stargirl, your comic book TV news, comic book sci-fi news of my other podcasts they do for Southgate Media Group, including the aforementioned Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Well, we are about to celebrate our 6th anniversary of Next Stop Everywhere. So Jesse has put up with my nonsense for 6 years of podcasting.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So my condolences to you, sir. And, of course, you can also find me on Titan Talk, the Titans podcast, where DJ Nick and I are going through Doom Patrol Season 2, which has been spectacular, and having a lot of fun with that. So please check that out. Or, hey, Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast they do with Zan Sprouse, wife of comic book artist Chris Sprouse, where we talk about all things Twin Peaks, David Lynch, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about the David Lynch film from 2001, Mulholland Drive.
Nice.
And going through the Criterion Collection Blu-ray special features,
Ooh.
including interviews, cast interviews, Lynch interviews with Lynch, and all kinds of nice behind-the-scenes footage and whatnot. So we'll be doing a little deeper dive. We already talked about the movie in our last episode, but now in episode 80, we're going to do digging into the Criterion release. So
Nice. Very good.
should be a lot of fun. And having a ball with that. And then everybody, thank you so much for listening. Please share our links if you would. If you enjoy what we do, we hope you do. Please like and follow us, and of course subscribe to us. And then come on back next time for episode 188 as we talk Stars and Stripes Part 1. So Part 1 of the two-part Stargirl Series 1, Season 1 finale. And, of course, Stargirl Episode 12. Jesse, any final thoughts before we sign off?
No, once again, this was a lot of fun, Charles. Thank you for joining, helping me and talk about the show. I love it. I do want to stress to the listeners, please share the podcast with a friend who likes Stargirl and have them check it out. And iTunes, rate and review us, or wherever you find your podcast. That would make Charles and I very happy to see some new reviews.
Exactly. So, that would be great. Hopefully you enjoy what we do. And, hey, since we're coming to the end of Stargirl, if there's any suggestions about what we should be covering next on the Phantom Zone, please drop us a line. Let us know what you'd like to hear us cover. I think that would be very, very informative. So, everybody, thanks again. Come on back next time, 188 of the Phantom Zone, as we talk Stars and Stripes Part 1. It's going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully the Shining Knight will make his proper appearance, fingers crossed. And then, so we'll see you next time right here on the Phantom Zone podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.